Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. We're continuing the World at War first scenario, which was storming the gap. Again, thank you everyone for sharing comments, pointing out rules, clarity. I really appreciate that, and I hope that not only has it helped me immensely learn the rules, but I'm hoping other people that watch this, they're picking up some rules as well. And based on feedback, there's a few things that stood out to me that I was really trying to grasp, and I wanted to kind of share out some things. First of all, the leadership bonus. Now, there's leaders, specific individual leaders. I don't have one out for an example, but I should get one, but I won't. Then you have your formation leaders. Now, a question that came up for me, and it seems like I've had maybe a couple different responses to this. It says that like if you are using the formation leader, then if it's stacked, his bonuses apply to the stack. If you had like two vehicles. And if it's the individual leader, he applies to a specific unit. But page 28, when it talks about leadership bonus, it mentions that it's just always to a unit. So you're always attaching the headquarters to a unit, which to me is an individual thing, not the stack. Same with a leader. Leader will go to a unit. So that's my understanding as I'm reading it from the rules, is that it doesn't matter if it's a formation leader or an individual leader, they have to attach to a unit. And the bonuses they give affect direct fire and opportunity fire, but not indirect fire, it says. Now, the difference between the headquarters leader and, say, the individual leader is that it was not really much. Oh, the biggest difference is for morale and skill checks, if you're with the formation leader, like the formation leader, you subtract their bonus from your skill roll. So if this was on the 2 side, you would roll your 2 dice 6, subtract 2. If it's on the reduced side, you roll your 2 dice, subtract 1. If it is the individual leader attached to a unit, he has a skill value that you would use for your roll instead. So for example, if like the average formation for like the US 11th here is like a 7, well, an individual leader might have a skill morale value of, say, 8. So that would be the difference. If your leader is attached to a unit, you use the leader's morale skill value. If it's attached to the formation headquarters, you subtract that bonus from the die roll you make. Otherwise, from everything I'm seeing, you still just pick a specific unit that they attach to and not to the whole hex. Now, if you got others, that's on page 28. So if you have another page reference for me, I'll be happy to look that up. Then on page 64, this comes up to a little bit between what out of command can do and what disrupted units can do. So first is on page 64, disruption. In that section for disruption, no direct fire or spotting for indirect fire. Okay, so when you're disrupted, no shooting. But you can move. And there's actually a little paragraph in there talking about how you can make your moves. And mostly, the moving is you can't move closer to the enemy. If you are out of line of sight of an enemy and you start moving, so like technically if I'm behind this hill, I am technically moving closer to the enemy, but as soon as I get in line of sight of an enemy unit, I then have to stop moving. So there's that. That's what disruption can do. No firing, but they can move. Now, if it's out of command, it says there's no actions, no moving or direct fire, but they can opportunity fire. So disruption is no firing, but can move. Out of command, there's no actions moving except they can op fire. And that's on page 40 for the out of command. Then on page 32, and I put the actual specific rule reference, 2.3.7, rebuilding the formation deck. So this was a question I had. I did find it finally. It's in that page 32, 2.3.7 is once you draw the formation card of a unit that's pulled out because of end ops, and that unit activates and you place them on the board, that end operations card goes immediately into your deck. You shuffle it back in, and then it's good to go. I think that answered some of the questions that have come up as far as me reading the comments, and I wanted to get clarity. And yeah, the thing what makes this a little bit easier is since some of the rules are starting to gel, it's easier to find the information I need. Like, I'm starting to understand what I'm looking for. A lot of times, starting out, it's like you read the rules once and then you start playing, and then it's like, well, I remember reading that, but I can't find it. And that's starting to get easier because, the mechanics are starting to make sense. I kind of understand. I think what it is I'm understanding what questions to ask. You know what I mean? Before, when you're kind of clueless, it's kind of like, yeah, I really don't know what's going on here, but it's all starting to come together. Doesn't mean we won't make mistakes still, so please feel free to point things out. Also suggested to me was, if I do another scenario for you all, is to skip scenario 2 and go straight to scenario 3. So if anybody has any input on that, that's cool. Otherwise, I'll probably do that. Skip number 2 and go to 3. So that might be something I do. All right, so let's go ahead and get dug in. Yeah, so the last video covered turns 6, 7, and 8. And on the video description, I just put 6 and 7 because I forgot we accomplished a whole lot. So this would be turns possibly 9 and 10. So that means for future generations, they're going to be looking at the video descriptions and wondering, oh, where did turn 8 go? Oh, I'm so funny. We'll just leave it as a mystery. Unless they watch the video, then they know it's what happened, and it's not really a mystery at that point. All right, let's draw our first formation card. And it is whoosh, 11th ACR. Cool. Again, just going through the sequence of play, there was no, I can't read that far. There's no end of operations, no close air support. Well, the end of operations as far as that, but not, I didn't draw 2. No battlefield event friction card. All right, so we go into action, so we refresh. Now, we've already refreshed because of the end of the turn from last time. We check for command stats. So first, it's reassign leaders or deploy your headquarters. I'm going to deploy the headquarters here, because then they get their morale bonus skill check there when they try to become undisrupted. And then check for command effects. All right. Well, they are in command, so they're good there. Then disruption removal. That's this big part right here. So again, I get to subtract 1 because I have the 1 skill point modifier. So subtract 1 from the roll. Good, that'd be a 2. That passed even without a modifier. So they, they are no longer disrupted. They are good to go for the battle. No off-board artillery strikes, and then we get into actions. And I'm not too worried about priority is you pick the target and you check to see if it meets any of the AI requirements. If it's secondary because it's out of line of sight initially, then you just pick an order, start with the top order, and then pick a unit that it applies to. And if no order applies to a unit, you just move down to the next set of orders. And if you go through this entire card and you don't have any units that can complete or comply with any of these orders, then you can just pass. Like, you don't have to do an action with that unit. You don't mark it ops complete or anything, but you're just essentially saying, okay, that unit passes, because maybe a better order will come along. All right, now, in this example here, since we know he's point blank, he doesn't qualify to do an assault, so it just says followed up with a fire order. So that's what we'll do. Now, it doesn't say what to target, so the cards don't drive every single aspect of your AI for the opponent. There still leaves some thought in there for you, things that you might want to do, which is fine. And then, even if you find orders on here that don't make sense, the book says you don't have to do what the card says. You kind of get to do what you want. These are more of like suggestions of things that can happen. And that's cool. I'm okay with that. This suggested to try an assault. I don't think it meets the right criteria for an assault, so he's just going to shoot. And he's going to shoot up here at the Abrams on the hill. And to do that, he only gets 2 fire dice because he's a reduced unit. But he is point blank, so he's hitting on 3s. 1 hit, and because the Abrams unit is in a improved position, entrenched in, hold down, whatever you want to call it, they ignore the first hit, And that takes care of that. And then we mark them ops complete. Then we're going to take a look here. Oh, you know what? We forgot to go through the order of things here. We do need to check and see if they stay disrupted. I'm already skipping ahead of things, and that's why I was trying to read that sequence of play chart every time I pulled it out, because sometimes I get excited and I just start doing stuff and I forgot. We need to check to see if that unit stays disrupted. Now, because they have the HQ with them, they get to subtract 1 from their roll, which is going to be the draw of a card. Alright, so they need essentially a 7 or less, because their skill level is a 6, and subtract 1 from your roll. So basically I need to roll, get a 7 or less on this to be good, and they get a 9. So that unit stays disrupted. I am so sorry. So we have a non-disrupted unit, and because I'm drawing 1 card for the formation, so that was another question too, is why draw 1 card for a formation versus draw a card for each stack or each hex. I think in the example in the book they were drawn like for each hex, and this is purely because it's in the rules it says you can do this either way. You can draw this for an entire formation, and this 1 card will dictate what the formation does, or draw it for each unit. And someone suggested in the comments that, well, if you want to semi-simulate kind of the strict Soviet doctrine when you're playing against the Soviets, why don't you just draw the 1 card for that Soviet formation, because they're following a doctrine. I thought that was kind of makes sense. Then if you were playing the AI as the Americans, if the AI was Americans, you could draw a card then for each stack or unit of the Americans, because they were more flexible in their orders, is kind of the theory on that. But again, it's entirely up to you what you want to do. I just thought it would be fine to do 1 card for the whole formation, because the commander screeches out on the radio, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to assault. Same thing though, their firepower is still only a 2. So that's not greater than what's up here in the Abrams. So they're going to stay put, and they're going to fire as well. Now at this point I could override the suggestion and say, yeah, we're going to have you assault, because there's no opportunity fire that can occur. The thing is, do they have enough movement points to get up the hill when they get over here? Because going uphill costs an extra move point, and this open land is going to be 1 move point each, and they only have 6 move points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they could cross the field, and they would have to stop here. Well, that would definitely put them at point blank range for... It might not be a bad idea, because it would put them at point blank range for this Abrams unit, but it would put them out of line of sight for this unit, and definitely for this unit over here. Choices, choices. Well, it's going to be close to the last turn of the game, so why don't we do it, right? Go big or go home, and they're going to set themselves up for an eventual point blank knife fight of tanks. And they're going to take their command HQ marker with them, because that will give some kind of combat bonus, I'm sure. I'm sure it will give something. Alright, that's what they're doing. And they are ops complete. Now the downside to that is, you know, the Abrams, obviously, if they go again this turn, they'll just shoot right on down into the tops of those tanks. But that's where we're at now. It's desperation time. The Soviets want to try and dislodge that American tank unit. Alright, here comes the next activation card. And end ops. Alright, well, since both formations have gone, I don't have to withhold any formation, and we'll go through and talk about the marker removal phase. So we remove all the ops complete and out of command markers. So here comes all of the ops complete. I didn't have any out of command to worry about this time. Adjust smoke, don't have it. Adjust EW, don't have it. Check for fire marker, don't have it. Move suppressed HQs to their respective HQ support weapon holding box. Don't have it. Oh, yeah, that might be one thing, the move suppressed HQs. That one I still might be messing up on. So like I think I had once before a unit was destroyed and I moved their headquarters to the suppressed area, and then I think when the end of turn came, I followed that and moved it right to the suppressed. Oh yeah, I guess so. And then I could deploy it on the next turn. So I don't know if there's supposed to be like one solid turn. Like you can't deploy it on the very next turn that you've lost it. Like, is there, maybe I got the timing on that wrong still, but I just kind of follow the chart. So if I lost the HQ unit and I put it in the suppressed box and just follow the chart, and it says, okay, now I move it from the suppressed to the ready to deploy, and then if I activate it, I might be overthinking it. Just follow the chart, Eddie. Just follow the chart. Okay, I don't have to transfer any support weapons. Return cards to the deck, which I've got 2 to return. And shuffle it up. We don't have a squall marker or chemical strike. All right. Oh, wait a minute. That's only the first end operations card. I think we got it all. I think we got it. That's all the Americans. Okay, cool. So we're going to put them away. And that for sure, this is end operations number 2 for sure. Got it this time. So it is the end of turn. Where did the Soviets go? See, I think I messed up there. Gosh, I almost feel like I gotta watch the video again and find out where I messed up. Because then the Soviets didn't do anything. I think that when I first said that was my second end operations, I think I just cheated completely on behalf of the Americans. Oops. Well, poopski. That's kind of where we're at. Oh my goodness. See, I got myself all worked up and I started losing track of what I was doing. Now I feel bad, but I don't feel that bad. I honestly think that even if I wasn't cheating, I still think this was going to end up on the side of the Americans, I think. Yeah, because I just shuffled. I just feel like I had messed something up. Okay, we're going to get turn number 10 perfectly. That one is going to go perfect. We mucked up turn number 9, but we're going to do really well on turn number 10. I guarantee it. Guarantee. Where's my sequence of play? No mistakes. I can't find the card I want. Here it is. Sequence of play. Alright, so yeah. Well, I messed up turn number 9. I apologize to the Soviet fans out there. I totally did not mean to muck that up, but I think I did muck that up in the favor of the Americans. So turn number 10, we're going to go out with a bang. Go out with a bang. We're going to do this one right. Okay, so we're going to start by, I'm going to reshuffle real fast too the solo assistant deck. I had cycled enough cards that I think that might warrant. Yeah, let's just shuffle that here. You can hear me shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Can't see this because I zoomed in. I tried to position that so you can see the dice and the units. The only unit you can't really see is the infantry, but I hope you can see the other stuff okay. I mean, this is a reduced unit. They're not really doing a whole lot anymore. And you've got the 2 headquarters units going at it. Who is deadliest? Abrams or T-80? All right. First formation of turn 10. Last turn. Let's do this one right. All right. Soviets go first. They're going to activate. First, they're making sure. Yeah, they got their headquarters. What did I say? Let's check the chart. I told you I got to do this turn right. So that's the end ops, but it's not the second one. They no close air, no electronic, no battlefield event. So they do the designated formation stuff. Refresh. We just did a refresh for the turn. They are in command of headquarters. No missile reloads for them. disrupted. There is no disrupted unit, just a reduced one, and then at full strength. Excuse me. And then there's no offboard artillery. Now we're going to check for actions. Now this is where it's going to get interesting. The bad thing about what I did was I did the assault. They said charge, but this card might not have assault in that first spot. It does. It says assault if the firepower is greater than the target. I did not shuffle very good, because that's the exact same card we had before. And even though it is not greater than, they're going to do it. They're going in. And from what someone was pointing out, when you do the assault, there's no defensive bonus. But here's the thing. There might not be any defensive bonuses, but from what I read on improved terrain, you still absorb that first hit. Because it's not part of a defensive roll or defensive terrain or anything like that. But improved position just absorbs your first hit because they're dug in and these guys are getting up close. So they're going to move in. And we're going to make two dice rolls for the assault. And I think because it's with the HQ. Now that one, I know we just talked about that. They add it to direct fire and whatnot. But I believe that will also count for the assault, right? Don't they add one die to the assault value? Assault. Let's see. I would think so. Let's see if it says leader in the assault. HQ bonus. Increase your unit's assault firepower dice by your command. Yep, they do. All right, cool. We're on it. I didn't look the page number up, sorry, but it is in there. I'm going to shift this just a little bit. So the action's a little more central there. Yes, let's do that. All right, so they have 3 dice, and their assaults hit on 4s. 1. Okay, so here's the thing, right? These, it says it's pretty much simultaneous, and there's no save rolls. You just roll, and every hit is applied. So assaults are very, very, very deadly. Now, the Abrams is going to assault back. Same way. They get to roll 3 dice because they've got their HQ, and they hit on 4s. And they got 1 hit as well. So that means both are going to be disrupted from the assault. And memory tells me that I think the assaulter, because it did not do more hits than, they fall back 1. They got to repeat 1. Or retreat 1, not repeat 1. So let's double check that real quick. Loser of the assault. Or, well, let me see what it says, because it might say something different for a tie. If the defender is not eliminated and receives more hits than it inflicted, it retreats. The attacker now occupies. It didn't happen. Let's see. If the defender is not eliminated and the attacker did not inflict more hits than received, the attacker must retreat to the adjacent hex from which it originally entered the defender's hex to execute the assault. So yep, they just fall back 1. But they did each receive 1 hit, so they are each both disrupted. Alright. That is my story. I'm sticking to it. Done. And then it says this would assault, but their firepower is not greater than. Now, that could be up for debate at this. Oh, wait a minute. No, they're not. Because I put them in the improved position. The Abrams unit teams, they laugh off that futile attempt by the Soviets to attack, which means standing success by the American defenders. You know, General so-and-so will send out condolence letters to those who perished in their little cardboard vehicles. But other than that, we're done. So thank you so much for this playthrough of Scenario 1. I know it's taken us a few days. Let's do the after action here. Okay, so again, in a completely unrelated post thing that I was reading, someone had mentioned that the original incarnation of the game was much simpler. It was designed to be, you know, played with as few charts as possible, as few rules as possible. all the information you needed was pretty much on the counters as far as, you know, your range, shooting values, things like that. And now what we have here is a much more expanded experience, and more charts, more, it seems, more things to keep track of. And I don't think that that ruins the experience at all. I think what we have here is the beginnings of like taking a system that was not meant to so much be like a simulation, but rather a way to get realistic outcomes with few rules. I think what we're seeing now is maybe an evolution in the system to go more towards something that has more of a simulation feel to it. Now, I'm not saying that this is the be-all, end-all platoon level game. I actually do find it quite enjoyable. There are lots of charts, lots of things to look up, remember, and try and keep track of, but ultimately, though, I think it's good. Once you start getting a feel for things, you know, kind of, I've had several hours now of gameplay and doing some homework. Yeah, there's a little bit of investment to learn it. It's not just a simple, everything I need is on the counters and I have one chart. But I think what they've added now to this iteration is maybe a deeper experience, right? Because we've just touched the very basics. This was some tanks coming in against some tanks, a little bit of what missiles are like. And I think what they've done is they've really kind of fleshed out some specifics to support. You know, it's kind of like when you have a system with a few rules that, you know, is quick to learn and pick up, but I think sometimes that leaves questions that, you know, go unanswered. You know, it's like, well, kind of play it by what makes sense to you. But what I've learned now is that when you have people don't always agree on how a rule should be interpreted without guidance. And that, I think that's what I'm looking for. This game provides a lot of guidance on those situations that crop up where you might not be quite sure what to do. And so far, we as a group, we've been able to find every answer that we've needed in the rules because they have fleshed that out. They've spent a lot of time answering those questions, I think. Now, I'm not going to say it's a perfect system, but it is, I think, a more advanced and gives a lot more clarification as to what needs to be done. I think that's fantastic. I do want to play one more. I think I will look at Scenario 3, see what that involves, and if that's got any additional rules. I feel like I'm just now starting to get the basics here, so I have to check and see what Scenario 3 brings. Well, let's take a look at that real quick. That's the rules. And here, Scenario Tree. We're going to skip number 2, so we're going to go straight to number 3. That's Iron Horse, Iron Spear. So that brings the Soviets with 4 infantry, 4 BMP-1s, and 2 T-62s.